G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad Rugby League show. I'm Stu, that's Dyl, and we are the Fantasy Bros, partnering with GameDay Squad once again to bring you everything you need to know to succeed in this season's GDS Rugby League. Well, it's a Wednesday. You know what that means? Team List Tuesday has dropped, and we've had a few injuries. We're going to have to delve deep into our squads to find some players to replace. Poor Hudson Young gone for the season. Cam Murray's got an injury. Tallis Duncan's out through injury as well. Fortunately, we were looking like we were going to be without Adam Dewey as well through the judiciary, but he's managed to get off that dangerous tackle charge. David Fafita, not so lucky. So, yeah, a couple of positions there that are getting fairly thin. So hopefully we can steer you all into the right direction for a couple of players this week. Before we get into that, Bill, welcome, mate. How did you go in round 20?
Yeah, g'day, mate. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I think that Adam Dewey got a bit of a reprieve. I would have loved to see some squads and how they rolled out without the stock standard Farnworth and Dewey in the centres. But all good. We push on. Yeah, look, 10th and under 24s last week, 6th in Sunday Showdown. I keep getting so close, just missing out by a few points here and there. So hopefully this is my week. And then I also had the big win over Dan's Dynamos in the GDS Cup. Nice. So I was pretty happy about that. He's the 4th seed in the GDS Cup, and I got a win over him. So pretty stoked with that. I also had Tyron Wishart thrown out as a massive point of difference, and he really came to fruition there against the boys and probably against the odds. Really, everyone thought that he was going to have a pretty poor game alongside Trent Salau. So I was pretty happy that he stood up, and he's now got Hughes back by his side, so hopefully we can see a big game from Wishart again.
Yeah, he was really impressive, and I'm sure Sif Kanger in the chat already. Howdy, let's get rowdy. He'll be pretty impressed with his boy Tyron Wishart as well. We got Matthew in the chat as well. Let's go. That's right, Matthew. How did you go in round 20? Mate, I went all right. Second there in under 24s. I actually looked at the scores, the leaderboard, and I was on the exact same points as first. So obviously comes down to decimal points, and I don't know how many decimal points I lost by. I don't really want to check, but let's just say he's the guy that won. It's about $125 better off than me, all thanks to a couple of decimal points. But fortunately, I did get an elite, a Legend Hunter pack that I can't wait to redeem, probably sometime in the preseason for next year. But yeah, it was all the Dragons under 24 forwards. We've been cramming them into our sides, but look, I've just been putting every bit of salary I have on those guys. Toby Couchman, an unreal 78. I think he played all 80 minutes. Hamish Stewart, 74, with a fantastic show and go close to the line and scored untouched. Ryan Couchman, 69. Dylan Egan, 56. Look, those boys are just getting it done. I'm not sure if that's going to continue necessarily. Dean Young is just re-signed, not to get confused with resigned with the Dragons. So maybe he's looking forward to 2027. Obviously, they're going to be a much improved side next year. Does he look after some of these youngsters now that he's got that job secured? We will wait and see. But pretty happy with that second, just outside the top 20 in a few other comps.
Yeah, nice. And look, Michael Cossie as well jumps in. Best for him this round was 17th in Classics, thanks to the bros and their help. So it's great that listening to the show has helped a few people over the last few weeks and throughout the season. It's good to hear that kind of feedback. Thank you, Michael Cossie. And look, it shows that listening to us, you can have a few wins here and there, and we are showing that we're having a few wins as well. We've got plenty of success across a lot of the competitions. It's not just the stock standard full slate competitions that we are succeeding in. And look, we're coming to you each and every Wednesday, so make sure you tune in from 6 p.m. We'll potentially be looking to changing that time slot as well. I know it's quite tough for a few people to tune in at 6 o'clock. So we'll be looking at maybe revising that based on some feedback we got. So keep an eye out for any posts regarding that. Make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy Bros YouTube channel now. You do not want to miss anything. We're obviously going to talk through some of the best plays this week, some of the really good pod options that we really like. We've obviously got a number of plug and plays each and every week. So we want to try and find some value outside of those potentially and talk you into a few different players. We'll talk through our consensus side a little bit later, as well as touch on some under 24 players. We've made a little adjustment to on screen as well, and we'll talk through that when we get there. And then we'll plug the Stats Lab Primetime competition. And of course, our Fantasy Bros Sunday Showdown, because it is heating up. We're almost at that finals competition. I know on the AFL side of things, it's their first round of the finals for the Fantasy Bros Sunday Showdown over there. So we're getting very close to a winner of that $5,000 cash prize. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to all of our socials. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Make sure you go over there, check out everything we've got to offer. We've got plenty of posts and reels throughout the week as well. That's at FantasyBros AU. Don't forget as well, check out our website. We've got plenty of merch there. You can see I'm wearing the Fantasy Bros hoodie. We've got the hats. So if you want to get around us and show your support and potentially a little bit of advertising out and about, make sure you head to fantasybrosau.com and check out all the stuff that we have there.
Absolutely. It's also not too late at all to get started in GDS Rugby League. You can see on screen there, you can use our special code FBRL26 when you sign up. You'll get 3 9-player common packs. You'll also get a whole heap of bronze packs. So you'll be able to get a starter squad and a contender squad rolling. No better time to get started. There's about $3,000 in cash prizes up for grabs each and every week, plus plenty of packs to be won. And Dyl, I know you and I, we've got itchy fingers to open up plenty of packs, but we're sort of hoarding a few packs now and waiting for the new season. So yeah, you can certainly win your packs and bank them just like we are waiting for the next season. We also had a massive announcement not too long ago with the launch of the GameDay Squad Gridiron as well. So yeah, warm up your GDS experience with a bit of rugby league to finish the season. And then before you know it, that NFL will start. And boy, Dyl and I are pumped. We announced on the show last week that the XRP effect, Matt, will join Dylan and I as the third fantasy bro, and we'll be previewing the NFL season. So we absolutely cannot wait for that. Dyl, let's get into what everyone is here for, and that's the positional previews. We'll start with the hooker position, like always. And look, I think it's a race between 3. We've said these 3 names just about every single week that they're available, but it's no secret that it's Harry Grant, Blake Brayley, and Oliver Pascoe. It's great to see Pascoe getting back to those 80 minutes. And gee, he's a threat whenever that footy is played close to the line. I think he scored 2 tries on the weekend just gone, highlighting just how good his attacking threat is. We still cannot find a gold Ollie Pascoe card to get up there on screen. So anyone that's rolling out an Oliver Pascoe will probably be playing him as a bit of a pod, but we think he's up there in must-play territory. You can see on screen there, he's actually averaging 60 points over the last 3 rounds, I think it is. Is it 3-round average?
Yep, that's right. Yes.
And that's above Blake Brayley and Harry Grant in their last 3 matches as well. You can see there in brackets, that is the 3-round rolling average. The number in front of that is obviously the full season average. So, mate, let's start there with the strongly considers. I think we can just almost press copy and paste just about every single week. But of those 3, where are you heading in terms of your hooker direction? And will it be that same player across all sides?
Yeah, it is tough. I did a little exercise this afternoon and put the 3 names into the Stats Lab player comparison tool that they've got over there on statslab.app. Put those 3 players in. And I guess the thing that it spat out that's probably the most important for me is that Grant's the one that is getting all of the base and power stats, and he's slightly above both of them in terms of that. He's also above both of them in terms of a lot of the attacking stats as well. I think Brayley just has the edge over him in terms of try assists. So I think for me, the safety is in Harry Grant. We know what we've seen from him over the last few weeks. And I guess that average from Grant is slightly down because he's had a couple of stints off the bench as well. So we haven't seen the full 80 because he was obviously coming back from the Origin stint that he had. So I think for me, it's Harry Grant is probably above the other 2. They're also up against the Rabbits, who just allowed 52 points, to Owen Paddy. Again, he was just absolutely unreal getting that starting gig for the Raiders. And then the Rabbits have averaged more than 40 to all starting hookers across the season. Brayley up against Manly doing something similar. They just allowed 76 to Ollie Pascoe. So I think there's some opportunity there for Brayley as well. He's probably just not as exciting as the other 2. I think for me, Ollie Pascoe is the most exciting out of all 3 of them. And we saw that last week with, like you said, his 2 tries, and he just looked super dangerous. Great to see him backing up through the middle when the team made a break, and then obviously he darting over himself when he sniffed an opportunity. So I think there's plenty of potential in Ollie Pascoe now that he's back to 80 minutes. It's just going to be that matchup against the Dragons. They're actually going pretty well against hookers, 39 to all starting hookers, and then that's sort of equal to their 3-game rolling average as well. So I think similar to what Steve Kanger has said here, I'm going to go a mix of Harry Grant in probably the main competitions that I'm playing, and then throwing in an Ollie Pascoe as a bit of a pod option as well in a couple of the pod competitions. As you say, though, if you've got an Ollie Pascoe card and he's not highly owned, I think you've got to get him in your side.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that shout as well. We've seen the attack from him. We've seen it reduce from Blake Brayley, and we're just seeing him sort of dish left or right, and the halves and the outside backs are getting it done for the Sharkies there. I do think Harry Grant is the standout option this week. Obviously, the Bunny's a little bit depleted. We mentioned it in the pre-show or at the start of the show, top of the show there, with no Cam Murray, no Tallis Duncan. They're going to be pretty thin through the middle and on the edges, and that's where you'd expect someone like Harry Grant to take advantage. You mentioned that Owen Paddy had a pretty nice outing against the Rabbitohs. He only played the 61 minutes and still got above 50 points. So, yeah, you'd expect Harry Grant to push that or get maybe toward the 60s as well when he gets the full 80. They're also without Cam Munster there as well, so probably a little bit more responsibility on Harry Grant. Jerome Hughes injured for a week or two. He's back. Is he fully fit? Maybe not, but Storm are in that sort of desperate territory right now, so you probably expect a little bit more from Harry Grant. We mentioned Owen Paddy. Unfortunately, he's out for a week through suspension. He would have been there as a point of difference. He's getting the minutes. He's looking fantastic. He would have been a great shout for the under-24 competition, just like he was last round. But look, Tommy Starling's in that spot at the moment. He might get that 60 minutes with Jaden Brayley there on the bench. But, yeah, look, I don't think I can get anywhere near Tommy Starling or Brandon Smith, despite the big match he had last week, when we've got the likes of Harry Grant, Blake Brayley, Ollie Pascoe. Any love for someone like Tommy Starling as a one-off play?
No, probably not. As you said, it's probably just a bit of a flash in the pan from Tommy Starling. I don't think he plays the full 80. I prefer the hookers, as we've said all season, to play 80 minutes to get as many opportunities as possible. Brandon Smith's an interesting one. You look at that 3-round rolling average of 20 in brackets there, but that's off the back of a 19, a -9, but then a 50 last week. So, it's quite deceiving. He obviously increased his tackle count slightly. His missed tackles, he didn't have as many. He had 12 missed tackles in round 19 to get that -9. So if he can stay on some tackles, he's always a little bit dangerous through the middle of the park as well. He's a bigger bodied hooker, so if he can break a few tackles and then get over the line, then there's every opportunity for him to have a decent game. I just don't see it when there's so many troops down, and I think they're going to be on the back foot all night. So I think for me, he's probably going to miss quite a few tackles through the middle because he's going to get knackered pretty quick.
Yeah, agree with you there. We've got Reece Robson, Jake Simkin as fades. Robson's 3-round average has been down. He's just doing a lot of tackling through the middle, not too much attack. Similar to Blake Brayley, really. That ball's getting past either side of the ruck, and the rest of the team are finishing everything rather than the hookers getting through their running game. So I think we've got a pretty easy selection in terms of our hookers. It's Harry Grant. It's Ollie Pascoe if you want to get a little bit different, but it's Blake Brayley if you don't quite have enough Grant or Pascoe cards. Mate, let's move on to the middle forwards because we've got the big four now. And it's Haas, Terrell May, Toby Couchman, and Alex Twal. We did see the downside of Alex Twal last week, that little sim bin. I don't think I've ever seen him show sort of so much passion, but in a bad way, sort of slapping and lashing out at the opposition player. I think it was Salmon, was it? He must have certainly got under his skin. But yeah, look, things weren't really happening for the Tigers. It didn't really impact Terrell May so much. We had Matty on the show saying he was probably going to fade him with Alex Twal there. I think he's learned a bit of a lesson there that you cannot fade Terrell May. They still lost by 32 points, but he still scored nicely. That 3-round average isn't looking too crash hot. But I'll tell you what, that Toby Couchman 3-round average of 74 points, if he wasn't a must-play in the previous rounds, still is he a must-play now?
Yeah, and you touched on it. The 80 minutes, for me, that's the big thing. 80 minutes through the middle is absolutely massive. That we haven't really seen that quite a lot. Terrell May's done it in the past. I think Payne Haas has had a couple of maybe stints with close to 80 minutes. But if we can get a consistent 80-minute forward, Jackson Ford was doing it earlier in the season, and we were all over him until he had that unfortunate injury. And so, yeah, if we can see a Toby Couchman 80 minutes through the middle, he had 78 GDS points, as we said, and it was his first 80-minute game of the season. So even if it does drop back slightly, look, looking at 70 minutes, he's had 3 games over 70 minutes this season. He's got a 74 average when he's averaging 70 minutes on the park. So if we can see that, like you said, Dean Young, now appointed head coach moving forward, maybe he's looking at, what does that look like next season and into the future? Maybe he does want to get quite a bit out of his young forwards at the moment to really know what he's got. But I guess the thing for me is that the Dragons' big four are the ones that we're going to keep talking about, whether it's the middles or the middle tags and then the edge tags. Hamish Stewart's in a similar vein, really. 75 minutes last week for 74 GDS points as well. And that included, as you said, that try. Since moving to the back row in round 11, Hamish Stewart's averaged 77 minutes on the field in that edge role, and his output's around 57 GDS points. And that's a base and power, 45 tackles, 100 running meters, more than 1 tackle break per game. With the attacking upside we saw, I think the Dragons are starting to get something together. Have a look at the players that are coming into that Dragons side next year. I think they're going to be really good. So I think you need to start making sure you're building up your Dragons squad moving forward, because it is a dynasty platform as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hamish Stewart playing in the back row, but available in the middle. We've got him and Toby Couchman as just about must plays in the under 24 competition. So we also recommend plenty of salary on those two. Still just touching on those Tigers boys. Terrell May, 61 minutes as expected. We didn't expect him to get upwards of 70 with a full pack there. Still 63 points, so going along nicely at 1 point per minute. He doesn't need the big minutes. If he knows he's only going to be on the park for a planned 60-odd minutes, he's going to score just about as similar as he would when he plans to play 80. That's just the way he plays his footy. Alex Twal, a little bit disappointing, the 40 points, but we can sort of give him a bit of a reprieve there with the sin bin. He's just been outstanding, and I think we can go back to playing him. There's no concerns with Alex Twal moving forward, is there?
I wouldn't read much into it. Look, it is his lowest score of the season, and I guess that's, as a result of the penalty and the sin bin. So it's a sort of a double whammy with the demerits on that as well. But he was still on his way to 40-plus tackles, 100-plus running meters. So there's an easy 50-odd in base, and then he's got the power game. He loves an offload, so I'm not concerned at all. If anything, maybe he just makes it even more of a target, because some people might jump off him potentially after registering 40 points if they're looking at maybe that the last week's score when they're filtering their teams. So I'm not sure at all if anyone's going to do that, but yeah, it might just make it an even more juicy option.
Let's talk points of difference. Tino Fa'asuamala-Awe, he was someone that we were massively debating to start the season, and well within our rights. This is how he started the season: 29, 26, 32, 32, 37, 39. It took him until round 7 to score above 39 GDS points. But Tino has returned to the old Tino in the last 3 weeks: 68 against the Dogs in round 17, a 32 against the Storm in 51 minutes, but 7 missed tackles and 3 errors. He's backed that up with a 75 against Manly in 62 minutes, not 1 missed tackle and just the 1 error. The Titans have the Dragons, and if there's any team that's going to bounce over the top of the Titans and avoid the spoon, it's going to be the Dragons. So it's just about must-win territory. You'd probably expect a massive Tino performance, if not for the rest of the season, at least this round. Is he someone that you can get to at all?
He's not. It's probably purely that inconsistency. Like you said, the sort of the last 3 weeks, 78, 32, 75, hard to predict what he's going to do and how that's going to pan out. But in that time, the round 17 score of 68, he had 53 tackles in that game. So he was doing a lot of work. 31 tackles last week, but he had 5 tackle breaks. So we haven't really seen the big tackle breaking numbers from him earlier in the season. That's the first one that he's had where he's got up to 5. He had 3, 2, 1s throughout the other parts of the season. So yeah, again, obviously the missed tackle count being down is great, but I just can't put any certainty behind Tino that he's going to replicate what he did last week or even in round 17, because we've got some data there that shows he's had some pretty poor games throughout the season. And when we've got players like Couchman and Hamish Stewart that are mostly in our under 24 side, but starting to push to that, especially Hamish Stewart pushing to that full slate round, I think it's much easier to get him into the side with that upside than having someone like Tino where you're just not sure what's going on.
He's out-averaging Terrell May in the past 3 with 58 GDS points, on par with Terrell May. Is your boy Jackie Williams? Talk to me about him as a pod.
I feel like it's contractually obliged to discuss Jack Williams at least every month. Round 19, he played 80 minutes through the middle. He scored 92 GDS points, 51 tackles, 100 plus running meters, 6 tackle breaks. That's 70 points in base and power. He then had that line break where he just absolutely cut through them like butter. And then the try assist on that as well. So he still had the 3 missed tackles. We've talked about his missed tackle count quite a lot, but look, when he plays more than 70 minutes of prop this season, he's almost 60 points on average. So, yeah, I don't mind him as a little bit of a pod play, but if anything, I think he's going to be the primetime king. So I think if you've got the diamond Jack Williams, the legend Jack Williams, I think you've got to get him into your side for primetime for sure.
Yeah, rate that. All right, let's just get to a couple of comments here. We got Maddie. Terrell May meters in the last 2 weeks, 70 and a 50. Yeah, absolutely not what you want to see from that middle forward. But look, if he's only getting 70 or 50 run meters, but still scoring 60 GDS points, I don't really care how he's getting those points as long as he's making those tackles, offloading the footy, tackle breaking when it counts. I don't think there's any reason to get off him. If anything, that's pretty promising. 63 points with 70 run meters. Imagine what he can do when he starts getting back to that 100, 120 with a couple of offloads and tackle breaks. I don't think there's any reason to get off Terrell May. You're a brave man, like XRP was last week, if he does.
and I guess the thing we look at, if we go back to round 18 previous for the rest of the first part of the season, he's averaging 160 odd running meters per game. So there's been a bit of a drop, but if he gets back to that, who knows what kind of score he's going to put up again. So I think I'm still happy to back the likelihood that he's going to go back to what he was doing previously. Obviously, there's been a lot of issues with the Tigers over the last few weeks and what's going on there behind the scenes. And hopefully they can just put that behind them and they can move on with the rest of their season. And it means Terrell May is going to produce those big running meters. But even still, like you said, 40-odd tackles the last couple of weeks, tackle breaks here and there, and then those 3 offloads as well, just boost those numbers for sure.
And just quickly, g'day, Tim. We'll circle back to hookers very quickly. Tim's just joined us. He missed the hooker discussion. Does Pascoe play 80 minutes? Look, mate, he's played 80 in the past 2. That's coincided with Chris Randall at the 13, who had been taking some minutes off him. Sammy Verrills has been lingering around. I think he was number 18 again last week and this week. But look, he didn't get any minutes last round, and I think Pascoe is doing the right thing in terms of not missing his tackles and certainly a lot of good service from the hooker position, and also that attack has plenty of upside there. So yeah, look, Tim, no reason to think that Pascoe doesn't, but Dyl and I just talked about liking Harry Grant a little bit more. Dyl, if there's no more middle discussion other than fading the likes of Stefano or Barnett, just quickly tell us about Stefano. 70 points last round. You don't like him this week?
Yeah, I don't want to chase it. They're trying the line break. It's not going to happen every week. Great if you did get on the back of it and you were backing Udiakamanu, but he's just been way too inconsistent. That floor of 35 that he's shown throughout the season is probably just not ideal. We were chasing him when he was tackle breaking at will. That's not really happening over the last few weeks. It's sort of really spotty and inconsistent. So I'd rather have some consistency there. And Barnett just hasn't delivered. We touched on that potentially he's going to be a big play with Jackson Ford out injured. But in the 4 games he started this season, Barnett, he's averaged 45 GDS points. And that's what his 3-round rolling average is as well, 45. So when there's plenty of upside and we look at across the 3-round rolling average of Couchman, May, Haas, Tino as well, all in the 50s or above, I think that there's plenty of better options there.
Agreed. It's just clocked as well who Matthew K is as well. So I changing my answer there, Matthew K. You definitely fade Terrell May. 70 and 50 run meters is not enough, mate. He cannot be a starting middle for you. Right, Adil, let's move on to the edge forward position, because if we're pretty happy with 4 middles, that means we can only play a 3rd edge forward, obviously 2 starters and 1 on our bench. We've been just locking and loading Dill Lucas and Haumole Olakuatu for the past month, it seems, and their 3-round average is insane. Dill Lucas, 64 for the season, but 71 for the past 3. Haumole Olakuatu averaging 67.67 for the season, but 77 over the past 3. Look, I think those two are absolute plays regardless of opposition, and that means we've probably only got space for one more edge forward. There are some unreal points of difference this round that we'll get to shortly, but who's your third edge forward? Is it Keon Koloamatangi because of all the injuries at Souths? If not, which way are you looking?
Yeah, no, you're right. The last slide, we obviously talked about the middles, and Cam Murray is the big injury there, and that just means that Koloamatangi probably will get 80 minutes. So I think that's just a lock and load there. So have those two that you talked about in terms of Lucas and Ola and the way that they're playing, and then Koloamatangi, he definitely comes back in as that third option. Some might see him as a bit of a point of difference as well. So I think that's not a bad option there. We've seen Murray this season when Murray's playing and Keon's in the side. Keon's averaging 67 minutes and just 44 points. But then when Murray is off the field and Keon is there, he's averaging 80 minutes, and that average jumps up to 55 minutes. So that 55 points, that 55 is all base and power as well. So if we're getting an 80-minute middle forward with just absolute base and power, being able to play him in the edge forward role, I think that's a great option. And we have seen some attacking upside from him in the past. So if he can sneak over for a try or a few offloads, I think we're going to be banking that for sure. So yeah, pair him up with Olakau'atu and then Lucas. I think I'll be happy with that trio.
Yeah, I am as well. And it's almost like we're playing 5 middles, I guess, when you think about it. Keon's obviously playing middle there for the Rabbitohs. I know he did sort of clutch at that knee at the end of the last match. It's going to be a pain tolerance for him with that. I think it was a PCL injury. But look, Souths have no one really. It's going to be up to him to roll up his sleeves while he's still fit and able, and he'll just be putting it in. Hopefully we can see him get back to the 80 minutes. But I'm sure even if he only pumps out the 60, we should get a 50 to mid-50 score from him. I don't think it's panic stations just yet. Mate, if we did have to go somewhere different, I think there's plenty of pods, and they're all wearing green this week, or at least in the Canberra versus St. George game. Obviously, Ryan Couchman there on screen has been excellent through the middle. A season average of 55, a 3-round average of 53, doing very good things there for the Dragons. I don't think you can go wrong if you decide to play him. Definitely a shout in the under-24 competition. But let's talk the Raiders. Let's talk the Green Machine. No Hudson Young. That Achilles rupture has seen him out for the rest of the season. I've got Simi Sasangi there as a bit of a pod. He started the season on absolute fire, playing a lot in the centres. We can only pick him in the back row, but he was putting back row numbers up. You and I were never really game enough to play him. We don't like the idea of playing a centre in our edge forward spot, but he continued to deliver. He got injured. His scores haven't been that great recently, but if there's a game that's he's going to excel in, it's likely this one. So my question here is, do we look to get the jump on others and pick the Simi Sasangi blow-up game, or do we look somewhere else like a Noah Martin or a Zachy Hosking? We saw him score 3 tries in the number 13 last week. He's on the right. He's on one of the edges this week, probably on that left edge. There's plenty of options there in green. Can you get to any of them this week? And if you could, what's your preference from 1, 2, 3?
My preference this week is Noah Martin. I think if I'm looking for a big point of difference, I think it's going to be Noah Martin. He's obviously returned from injury, and he's returned with an absolute bang. In the last 2 weeks, he's averaged 60 GDS points from 35 tackles, 2 tackle breaks, 70-odd running meters, plus a try in each of his games. He just looks back to that form that he was in at the start of the season, where he was crossing the line, where he was doing everything that he possibly can. Add to that now the Raiders up against the Tigers. They'll be hosting them this weekend, and that could be absolutely anything. We obviously just saw the Tigers throw up a donut last week, and the Raiders are sort of starting to find that form that we potentially thought they were going to have all season, that they just haven't really had. And the Tigers allowing 55 GDS points to right edge forwards over the past 3 games. I think it just means that Noah Martin for me is the number one out of those 3 options that you've thrown out in terms of Sasangi, Hosking, and Noah Martin.
Yeah, I'm inclined to back you there. I'd love to see Simi Sasangi absolutely go off with a hat trick. It's just very difficult to get to. Sif Kanga likes the idea of Keon Koloamatangi as well, and Matty Kay has brought up the shout of Zachy Hosking there. obviously, when he plays in the middle, he gets through plenty of work. He can be very quiet on the edge, other than the tackle numbers. But look, Noel Martin's getting it done with plenty of tackles, and the run meters haven't been outstanding either. You're right. The Tigers' edges are pretty weak, and one of them is certainly likely to capitalise. Do you flip a coin, Matty, and go one or the other? Maybe Dill's going Noah. You go Zachy Hosky and see which one of the two of you are better off. Mate, just quickly on some fades here. Jeremiah and Nanai, Bo Fermor. They might have some decent they might have some decent form under their belts, or look like they're improving a little bit. Bo Fermor with a nice little try, just reminding us of his attacking upside last round. But no love for those boys this weekend.
No, if I was going to take a Tiger up against the Broncos, it'd be Lukey. More than likely lying up on that right side. The Broncos left edge defense, we've exploited that all season. Whereas Nanai up against the Bronx, they're restricting left edge forwards to 35 in the past 3. And then, Fermor, that was only his second try of the season, which is surprising. I think he is one of those attacking edges in my head, I would have assumed he was one of those attacking edges, but he just really hasn't quite found that spark that he had in the previous couple of seasons. So for me, the try, nice to see that he ran an unreal line and it looked awesome, but I just don't necessarily think we're going to get that from him each and every week. And when we've got the 3 blokes that are strongly considered in terms of Lucas, Ola and Klong Matangi, we've got the 3 Raiders, plus we've got Ryan Couchman, who just quietly had an unreal game last week. We didn't really touch on that too much. We briefly went over that, but 72 minutes at lock and 69 GDS points. Again, he's just in some unreal form, and that's all base and power with a few offloads here and there. So I think there's a few better options than chasing some potential upside and what we might see from Fermor moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt, Zach Hosking, 75 minutes average in the back row this season for an average of 49.7, just the 1 try. So if you think there's some attacking opportunity this round, and we can probably expect that mid 50 to 60. But those numbers aren't jumping out as such. I think Noel Martin might be the play there if you're going for one of the Raiders players. Still, let's move to the halves position. We had a pretty down game from Nathan Cleary in the wet there on Thursday night. Is that going to turn any coaches off Nathan Cleary, or is he still 100% play, do you think?
Yeah, no, look, if he's going to throw up 27s each and every week, then I think it's time that everyone moves on. Look, just quietly though on Nathan Cleary, there's a few little whispers going around that he might be keen to head over and join his brother across the ditch and maybe pair up and have a Cleary halves combination in the future at the Warriors. So that will be really interesting to keep an eye on as we progress further into this season. So obviously Cleary's a play each and every week, no matter where he's going. But this week they're up against the Eels, and they're allowing 60 to right halves in the past 3 games. So I think Nathan Cleary's just a lock. Get as much salary on him as you can, as usual. And then it's the other 2 and where you might go with your other options that I think are going to be interesting. JC, obviously, up against the Dragons, he's got the soft matchup, but he's matchup proof, so it doesn't really matter. We just jump on Jaden Campbell each and every week. But it's that Nico Hines that I'm just not sure about yet. Is that somewhere where you're keen to go with Nico, or is it somewhere that you might be thinking that it just might not work?
No, he's almost a default option for me, I think, just because, look, none of the other options, apart from maybe one of those guys listed there in the pods that we'll get to shortly. Look, I can't go near Fogarty again. He used to be the staple in the side. He was putting up some big numbers, averaging just nearly 60 for a lot of that, the first part of the season. But look, he's been poor in the past. And Fantasy Bro Matt spoke last week about his return to the Gold Coast and, whether that might put plenty of points under him. But look, he forgot how to kick goals, and he's got 3 back-to-back 40-point scores. So he's got the flick for me, and he's got that match up there with the Sharkies. So look, one of those halves surely have to go well. For me, I'm backing Nico. Bit of form there. Manly have sort of forgotten how to play. I think the fairy tale Fosball story is grinding to a bit of a halt. Yeah. Tommy's gone. Is that a good thing for Manly? Maybe. But yeah, look, there's not a lot of faith there in Jamal Fogarty. So I think defaulting there to Nico Hines. We just remember a few weeks ago how big that ceiling is. You'd hate to have that little feeling in your stomach when you leave someone out like Nico with such a big ceiling. and he embarrasses you. So yeah, those are 3 default options for me. But let's talk pods in Tamari Martin, Tyron Wishart. I think Sif Kanga is pretty keen on, yes, his boy he's alluding to is Tyron Wishart. Pretty nice score last week as the chief playmaker there for the Storm. Hughes does come back. That probably changes his role slightly, although we saw just how good he was, particularly in that first half against the Titans a few weeks ago when Hughes was in the side. He was the most dangerous half in that side as well, doing a lot of creative and ball playing when in that jersey there. So, mate, Tamari Martin been a little bit quiet of late. Can he bounce back, or do we like Tyron Wishart as a bit of a pod?
Yeah, I think Tamari Martin's an interesting one, and I think a lot of people will jump off him because he's on that cold streak. Averaging the 42 in the past 3 doesn't look great, but up against the Dogs this week, they allowed 52 to right halves this season, and then 50 over the past 3 weeks. So there's plenty of opportunity for him. I think for me, the key is going to be the point in the season for the Warriors. We're going to need Tamari Martin to stand up and a few other guys around him to stand up, because we'll want to come away with this win away from home over at Accor. We want to solidify that top 2 spot, potentially even make a push if the Panthers start to have a little drop off like they have. They've lost a few games here and there. Potentially there's a minor premiership on the line for the Warriors at the back end in the last few weeks. So I think, yeah, potentially we're going to need Tamari Martin to stand up. So in the context of the rest of the season, I think there's potential for him to have a good game this week. But yeah, for me, it's all about Wishart and finding a spot somewhere in a couple of my pod sides for Wishart. Hughes back, I don't think that is an issue. I think, if anything, it probably bodes well for Wishart. As you said, he's averaging 50 GDS points when playing next to Hughes since 2024. So I think that every opportunity that Wishart once again goes back-to-back and has another decent score. Up against the Bunnies, we've already talked about it. They're down a few troops. They've got a couple of players out. The Tallis Duncan's probably a big one as well. I feel like they could potentially throw a little bit down that side of Sig Walton and see what comes off, because he has missed a few tackles this season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he'll be a definite play in the Stats Lab primetime competition there. And I don't know if too many people are going to play him. They're probably going to default to Jerome Hughes, who'll be above him on the averages list. So yeah, I think we can maybe get a little bit of a pod value there in Tyron Wishart, at least for the Stats Lab primetime. But getting to him in a full round competition, gee, it's tempting, isn't it? Particularly when we've seen just how dangerous his running game is. His kicking meters will suffer with Jerome Hughes in the side. He was up near 500 last round, but just below 300 there with Hughes 2 rounds earlier against the Titans. But I can still see him scoring plenty of points with that running game. Gee, I'd love to get there, but I just think Cleary, Hines, Campbell, they've been doing it enough for a long period of time. Jumping off one of them and then going big, that'll leave a pretty sore spot in the tummy.
Is there any concern with Hines? Up against Manly. Manly have restricted right halves to only 38 GDS points over the past 3 games. Obviously, those halves are a little bit below standard compared to Hines. Is that concerning at all? Or do you think that Hines is just one of those players that will stand up in that role? Last game of the round, the Sharks are on a bit of a win streak. As you said, Fosball's died down. Do you think there's any concern there from Hines, or you're going to run with that talent, knowing that he's better than a lot of those other players that have only been putting up 38 over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think that's it. He's better than a lot of the other options. We saw the defensive output from Manly last week. Tommy's gone. That just about means their season's gone as well. We've seen them, the defensive effort that they were showing through the middle part of the season was fantastic. The wheels are slowly starting to fall off. That wasn't just a one-off. It's been happening for a few weeks now. No Tom Trbojevic. Finals is looking a long way away, and that side is depleted. They're injury-riddled. They're tired. They're sore. Lukey Brooks was actually, pretty good for them and allowed a lot of attack to happen down that side of the field. Joey Walsh still warming into the role there in first grade. I think, the Sharkies will get one over over Manly here, and let's just hope that Nico can score a nice score and someone like Tyron Wishart doesn't beat him by too much. If he does, it's just the caliber of player that I'm backing here, despite the matchup looking pretty tough on paper. Just quickly, we do have a must play in the under 24 competition. Ethan Sanders has been fantastic for the Green Machine in the past few, with back-to-back scores over 60, kicked 13 goals in the past 2. It's coincided with the Raiders showing a bit of life and maybe some resurgence towards finals footy. 495 and then 732 kick meters in the past two. What are we talking in terms of salary for the under 24 comp, particularly with that nice matchup there against the Tigers? Do we like him as a bit of a load up there in that competition?
Yeah, definitely. The hard part is trying to fit all your salary in. The four Dragons forwards, the big four, we'll call them, and then Ethan Sanders, and then a couple of the guys we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. But yeah, you're right. I'm really keen on Sanders. He's really controlling things. And when was the last time we talked about a Raiders half kicking 700 plus and potentially moving towards 1,000 as well in a game? We're obviously getting off him now, but Jamal Fogarty. So yeah, if we can see Ethan Sanders continue that vein of form, I think he's going to have a lot of salary on him this weekend for sure.
All right, mate. The talking point of the week is probably the centre position. Life is going to be a lot tougher pre 24 hours ago when Adam Doueihi was facing that suspension. Fortunately, he has overcome that charge. He is free to play. So despite the matchup there, I think he's still a default play. We don't have Herbie Farnworth through the bye. So despite the matchup on paper being obviously pretty tough there against the Raiders, and one team is surging toward the finals, the other team is just puttering along a little bit there in the Tigers. I still think Doueihi's a must play. It really opens up the field though for the second centre that we have to play. I dare say coaches aren't going to try to plug a third in on their bench. So let's talk centres spots outside of Adam Doueihi. On the screen, we've got Stephen Crichton with the 3-round average of 47. Suffered that pretty horrible injury just 2 weeks ago. He's back playing with the number 6 on his back at left half there. We do like an out-of-position play. So for that reason in mind, despite the tough matchup with the Warriors, I don't mind the Stephen Crichton shout. I can see him getting a very low score. Casey McLean, another strongly considered, despite the 3-round average of 27. Despite the negative score last week. For me, I really want to get to Casey McLean because of what happened last week, being such a popular play. We know how good Tommy Jenkins is. We know that he's probably going to be a must play in the wing spot. Why can't Casey McLean be a must play one spot inside him? Talk to me about those two, and then let me know about the man in green that you're pretty keen on this week for your centers.
Yeah, there's quite a few players really that I'm really keen on, and I'll get to those soon. But yeah, look, Critter for me, I think it's going to be a step too far. 61 in his first game in the halves, where you touched on, you said you want to get ahead of the rest of the field and just get him into your side. And obviously that returned some good option there. That included 5 goals that he kicked. But the 29 in his second game, the injury occurred. My question is, how much is that going to impact his performance moving forward? It was a horrible injury. There was talk of it sort of being progressive from a season ago, and some things that happened there that it never sounds too good when there's a neck injury, and it came off the back of, look, there was some contact, but I wouldn't say it was the biggest contact we've ever seen either, which is concerning. Those sort of low contact, no contact injuries are really concerning. So for me, I'm going to stay away from Critter. The Warriors are only allowing 31 to left halves in the past 3 games as well. So I think that sort of just solidifies that. McLean, on the other hand, I don't mind it. Exactly the same reason. He missed 10 tackles from 20 attempts last week against the Bronx, and ended up with that negative score. But we look at the Eels; they're allowing plenty. They allowed 54 to Billy Smith in round 19. We go back one round, put a line through Falalo's negative score there in round 18. But Seabolt the week before 42, then the week before that Tomiko 61. There's plenty of opportunity for McLean to have a big game. The downside, I think, for me, looking at historically for McLean this season, he's only had 3 from 13 games where he scored over 55 GDS points. So is that sort of the ceiling we're looking at from an opportunity in the centres where we've got some other great plays potentially? I don't know. Are we happy with 55 in centres? I would be, but then we've also seen the negative, I guess, the downside of Casey McLean as well. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I am keen on him for that pure reason, though, that he missed those 10 tackles last week.
And 74 against the Eels back in round 4 with the try there. So definitely capable against the opposition, and probably someone that may be under the radar. Regardless if you play him in your regular sides, I think he's definitely a bounce-back candidate for the under-24s. Mate, Sif Kanga has guessed that player that you're pretty high on, Matty Timoko, there. Yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, I've got two. So Timoko's the first one, and he's the first one that stands out based on the positive matchups, and that's where I'm sort of looking for the centre position where there's going to be some upside. Obviously, centre wing, we talk about those where they, boom or bust type roles. But if we can find some data that suggests there's going to be a big game or a bit of upside, Timoko's the first one. The Raiders up against the hapless Tigers, we've talked about already. The Tigers have absolutely leaked points over the past 5, especially to left centres. Going back round 16, Farnworth scored 60, Best 63, Holmes 88 in round 19, Pompey 47, and then Birdo 55 last round for a 63 GDS point average over the past 5 games. Sure, look, when we look at those names, Herbie's obviously stock standard there, but Holmes before then was averaging 36 GDS points across the season, Best 43, Pompey 27. So if we see a similar trend there, Timoko could see a 50+% increase in scoring on his average that we've got up there, that we don't have up there, sorry, but that he could be going sort of at that 63. He's averaging 43 at the moment, so we could see a 63 plus from him if those numbers sort of stay the same. So for me, I really like that upside in Matt Timoko. We loved him in the past. Going back a couple of years, he was an absolute machine for all of the reasons that you would expect. He is an attacking upside player. He's got plenty of opportunity to offload. He loves that cheeky little offload for the winger. He also can break plenty of tackles because he's a bigger bodied human. So, yeah, I think going back to some of those reasons, I think I really like Timoko.
To be honest, he probably wasn't someone on my radar at all until you sort of spoke about him earlier today. And the more we look at those stats, the more I'm excited to play him, particularly given the fragility there of the Tigers on the edges. Tell me about Billy Smith, who was soared into fantasy contention.
Yeah, this again, I feel like maybe I like Billy Smith slightly more. I don't know. I'm sort of tossing up between the two, but the theme of the show for the last little bit, I think, is going to be Roosters up against the Knights. The Knights are sort of allowing points across the park, even though they're fighting back and trying to win games in the last minute of games. One matchup that's really positive, I think, is Billy Smith, left centre spot, lining up against Fletcher Hunt without Dane Gagai there. Smith this season, when playing 80 minutes at left centre, he's averaged 52 GDS points. It's a small sample size. It's 4 games that he's done that. He's sort of been Mr. Fix-It for the Roosters, playing a number of different roles and responsibilities there. But he's scored in every one of those 4 games and had at least 2 tackle breaks per game when he's lined up in the left centre. Add to that the matchup. The Knights are giving up an average of almost 50 GDS points in the past 3. I think Billy Smith, again, alongside Timoko, could be one of those really good point of differences where you're not going to necessarily have the highly owned player in Billy Smith or Timoko. So there might be some opportunity there to really get one over on a few other coaches.
Yeah, I think Billy Smith is a massive pod shout there. You just would hate to see, all the footy going right. Obviously, the strike weapons there in Bobby Toyer, Mark Morganese, Tawase, the Tupou and Billy Smith there on the left could effectively catch a cold if things just click for the Roosters on that side of the field. But look, those numbers are very enticing. And just quickly, Jojo Fafita, if there's any matchup you want to target, it's Val Holmes, and 5 tackle breaks against Val Holmes earlier in this season for a 48-point score with no line breaks, with no tries, with no try assists. And I think the Titans are on an upward trajectory here, and I think that Jojo Fafita can find the try line. 2 tries in the weekend just gone against Manly, a nice 65-point outing. If you can't get to him in your week-long sides, I think an under 24 shout would be pretty good. Just averaging 41 there, so you have to scroll a little bit to find Jojo Fafita. Definitely only a matchup play, but when you got the second best matchup for all centres, I do not mind Jojo Fafita there up against Valentine Holmes. Just quickly, Kale Iro, Tony Staggs, 2 big-name players there, but you don't want to buy them this week.
Yeah, I think Staggs for me is the one that I'm putting a line through up against the Cowboys. Cowboys allowing 36 GDS points to centres, down to 27 over the last 3 games and 30 over the last 5 games. Staggs obviously took advantage of the 10 missed tackles that Casey McLean threw out, and as a result had a really good GDS score. But for me, I don't think he's going to replicate it. He's one of those players that we loved a couple of seasons ago, and he hasn't just met the heights of what we sort of were hoping that he has. He has flashes in the pan like he did last week, and I'm just not going to chase those points when there's some other really good options. Even players like Fine, Chester, they've got some better upside. They've got some, better matchups there as well based on the data. So I think for me, there's plenty of other options that we can go with, not chasing last week's points.
We got Frist joining us in the comments as well. G'day, mate. Don't recognise the name there. Which team name? How you going this season? Faded May, and that backfired very quickly. Yes, 33% of the show did fade Terrell May last round. You can blame Fantasy Bro Matt for that, but hopefully a very quick, a very simple, a very easy lesson learned there. One does not fade Terrell May. Get him straight back into your side, mate, and good luck this round. Dill, let's move on to the winger position. Suafa-Alongo had a bit of a down game last round. No Cam Munster, no Jerome Hughes in the side. We thought that could happen, but we also thought, look, there's probably some more responsibility. Yeah. Yes, he's had a poor score, but look, he was so close to having a massive return. I think Wishart broke the line and threw a really poor left to right ball, hit him in the ankles. He dropped that. He would have raced 30 metres untouched to score. Nick Meaney couldn't have had a better ball placed on his chest to go untouched himself and score from Sua. Look, if those two things reverse and go his way, there's an easy 50, 55-point score, and we're not really concerned about Suafa-Alongo. Is that any cause for panic there with Melbourne going along pretty poorly and him showing that he does have a bit of a flaw, or are we just back to Sua, too good at fullback there? He can just absolutely light up any team when he wants to.
Yeah, 100%. I think the interesting thing that I saw, there was a few storylines going out last week from a few different places around Suafa-Alongo and his lack of try scoring upside without the likes of Hughes, Munster in the side, where he didn't actually have anyone that has assisted a try for him this season in the game that week. So he was never going to score, which you don't need him to score a try for him to put up some big numbers. So I don't think that was a storyline that I necessarily subscribe to. And I think the data suggests that Falongo is just going to be better with Hughes in the team. It's a small sample size, but it's hard to ignore 66 GDS points per game that the Rabbitohs have allowed in the last 3 to fullbacks as well. That includes 5 tries in 3 games to those fullbacks. So it's really hard to ignore the matchup. It's really hard to ignore the Hughes being back, and then there is some try upside there as well. But like you said, a couple of little things that didn't go his way, it would have been the difference between 20, 30 points potentially.
Mate, we got bailed out a little bit last week with Tommy Jenkins. Penrith not scoring many points. The weather was really poor. Didn't score a try himself, but still a nice return of 47. We're expecting a nice big bounce back from him. Is he likely to find the try line? Is he the best wing option this round?
The data suggests he will find the line, and he'll find the line a few times. We've talked about it the last few weeks. Left wingers scoring plenty of points opposed to right wingers. Daniel Tupou going, 2 weeks ago in his 300th game, he scored 3 down that left side before half-time, I think, as well, against the Eels. So I think for me, Jenkins is the option over, if you are looking at the two between Bizza and Jenkins, I think for sure Jenkins is that option. Eels allowing plenty, 46 GDS points to left wingers, whereas right wingers are only scoring 34 per game this season. So I think, it's a really simple one. Milky Jenkins, it's his turn to have a big game again. He obviously wants to have that try-scoring record for the season, and I think he'll get there. I think Penrith will want to bounce back after the pretty poor game that they played for some parts of last week against the Broncos as well. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for them to do that in their, I guess, pseudo home at the moment, up against the Eels. They're sharing that stadium at Parramatta at the moment as their home ground. So I think, Jenkins over to but there's a few decent pot options as well.
Speaking of pot options, if we don't want to get to Sua and Jenkins combination, like Sif Kang here, it looks like he's going Sua and one other. He was pretty keen on Dom Young. You've got him there as Karaz. He was pretty keen on Karaz. About 30 points at halftime last week. Was pretty poor in the second half. Had about 6 or so offloads. Definitely got a ceiling there Tell us why he's a fade and why Sif Kanga might be better off playing a Mark Nawaqanitawase type.
Yeah, it's the Warriors and what they're doing to wingers at the moment, restricting all wingers, both sides of the park, to an average of 30 over the past 3 games. And really, that could be even lower. We had the Finns wingers both scoring 50 plus in round 17. So that really has bolstered, I guess, that 3-round average. The past 2 weeks, all 4 wingers against the Warriors have combined for a total of 74 GDS points. So, yeah, Kiraz at the moment, based on the injury concerns, based on the Warriors defensively and where they're at, I think for me, it's someone that I'm happy to fade. And I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy for Kiraz to come out and put on a big score because he's done that in the past and we know that. But like you said last week, I don't want that stress of watching Kiraz take a hit up and then go down clutching something, and we're not sure whether he's going to play the rest of the game or not. So I'm happy to look elsewhere. And Nawaqanitawase is one player that I'm pretty keen on. He's a really good point of difference, especially because he's on an absolute cold streak. You can see on screen there for anyone listening as well to the replay. He's averaging 46 this season, but his 3-round average is 26 at the moment. He has gone absolutely quiet over the past 3 weeks, but the Knights have allowed 56 GDS points to right wingers in the past 3 games. 43 to Graham, 60 to Katoa, and 65 to Asako. All 3 wingers there have crossed over for a meat pie as well. Nawaqanitawase, he's a try-scoring winger. I think he's going to get a couple in this game, and I think he's going to reward GDS coaches that back the talent, even though he's on that cold streak.
There you go, Sif Kanga. There's plenty of reason to get the Marky Mark into your side. Don't worry about the stress of Jacob Kiraz, and if he's going to get up from that play the ball, back yourself there if you want, though. And that's just the stats regarding Marky Mark. Dyl, let's talk pods quickly. Lehigh Hopewadi naturally puts himself into potential pod territory, despite not being super impressive in, let's say, a reasonable attempt playing fullback over the past few seasons. In Tom Trbojevich's absence, he's had about 10 or 12 matches there, still only averaging 40 points per game. Obviously, very talented footballer. He's gone over 70 twice. So if this is a game that you think he can go over 70, he presents a bit of pod value there, obviously with the number 1 on his back. But for me, it's Sione Katoa, and the right-hand side of the Sharkies are going to have a much better outing than the left-hand side. Kaelio, Ronaldo Mulatalo, very tough matchups, but it's the Manly left-hand defensive side that are pretty poor. Burbo comes back, but look, he's not noted for his defence. And with the Tom Trbojevic injury, that obviously means that Hopewadi moves from that wing to fullback. Folletti comes in there at centre. Kula's out of position there on the wing. And I think that's going to be the part of the field that the Sharkies target. Obviously, very talented footballer there. Sione Katoa can finish tries for fun, and it wouldn't surprise me if he finds 2 or 3 in the corner and all of the points are scored down that side of the field. So plenty of options there in the wing position, but no love for Kiraz, Dom Young. I still think it's still Fa'alongo, Tommy Jenkins. Anything to add there, Dyl?
No, just quickly on Lehigh, really interesting that we really love Sewer playing fullback, but Lehigh maybe not as much. But look, you look at the Sharks and you think that's a tough matchup. The Sharks are allowing 61 GDS points to fullbacks over the past 3 games. So if you do back the talent of Lehigh, you think that the data is saying there's something there for him, then yeah, there's a potential there for that point of difference. But you're right, I think it's Sewer and Jenkins for me, but there's plenty of options outside of that as well. So I really like the potential point of differences that I think coaches can play with.
Pretty open there in the centre, the wing position. We've got James Tedesco returning in the fullbacks. He's missed a few matches in a row. I think everyone watching the live stream at the moment is going to ask questions about someone we've got there on the fade list. So let's start there at the fades and the one man there in Kalen Ponga. He's not necessarily someone we're expecting to have a very poor score. Let's make that clear. But you just think there's plenty of options that are likely to outperform Kalen Ponga. And look, if we want to make some brave calls, it's this week and Ponga up against the Roosters. Let us know why.
Yeah, it is tough because he does sort of bounce back quite often and have some big games. And he had a pretty decent game last week. But it's just the numbers for me and the defensive efforts that the Roosters are putting in against fullbacks all season. They're allowing an average of 47 this season. It's dropped to 42 over the last 3 weeks or 3 games, against fullbacks. When we've got sort of 3 or 4 other options that have better matchups, I think someone like Kalen Ponga, where the Knights are sort of, they're weird at the moment. They're playing this sort of brand of footy that they let their opponents score plenty in the first half or first 60 minutes of the game, and then they chase really hard in the last couple of minutes. And I just, for me, I don't like that. Ponga as well. The upside of Ponga is his goal kicking, and the Roosters might restrict them to very few points this weekend, I think. So for me, I'd rather stay off, and I'd rather look at upside in Walsh, Teddy, Edwards, Keanu Kinney, and even Isaiah Iongi as well up against the Panthers. I think there's some upside there too.
Let's touch on Walsh quickly. He played fullback, halfback, 5'8", just about every position last week. I think he had an outstanding amount of touches, and he's just decided that it's Reece Walsh time, much like it was this time 12 months ago. Can he continue that form? A much easier matchup here with the Cowboys than the Penrith Panthers in the rain. That didn't affect him last week. Can we expect another big Reece Walsh performance?
Yeah, I hope so. He had 86 touches last week. That is the most of any fullback that has ever touched the ball in the NRL. I think the record before then was 82 or something like that. But that is absolutely ridiculous. He got the ball in his hand 86 times. If you're going to get the ball in your hand 86 times, you are going to score GDS points. And as you said, he played every position, and he's always going to overplay his hand at times. But I think he did quite well to sort of centre himself and get back to Reece Walsh, as you said, of 12 months ago, really, and putting up back-to-back hundreds over a 6-week period or whatever it was. So they're obviously making a late run for the finals. I've seen a few things come out, eight in a row, 8 losses in a row, and then 8 wins in a row, and they potentially make the top 8. So we'll see how that goes. But I think he's got a positive matchup up against the Cows. They've allowed 50 to fullbacks this season, but that has increased to 56 over the past 3. So if we can get Reece Walsh in that vein of form that he was in at the back end of last season, I think you've got to play him. And at the very least, definitely get him into your under 24 side with plenty of salary as well. I know we're having a conversation today, and some people didn't necessarily know that you can play a couple of special cards in that under 24 competition, and there's a few special cards of Reece Walsh floating around, so you can use a State of Origin card or a potential prize card, whatever it might be, for Reece Walsh in that under 24. So I think you would be doing that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. In 3 of my sides as well. While the Broncos are a live chance, Reece Walsh will definitely be in my side during the run home. We both got Dyl Edwards slightly above Kalen Ponga. He only scored 22 points against the Eels when they met earlier this season. The Eels haven't been too good to fullbacks, just shy of 50 points, between 40 and 60 over the past month or so of footy, but still giving up plenty of tackle breaks. So we think Penrith are going to bounce back. We like the Edwards play. But Teddy, he returns. You think he's going to be involved in that bit of a beat up on the Knights, who are leaking plenty of points?
Yeah, like I said, the theme of the back end of the show for me is Roosters up against the Knights. Knights are giving 50 to fullback this season. It's slightly dropped to 48, but in the past 3. But that was Kennedy, Dufty, and Fuller, who you're nowhere near the level of James Tedesco. I think James Tedesco has had a nice rest from that HIA at the back end of Origin. But look, you just have to go back to round 7. This matchup here, Knights against the Roosters. Teddy racked up 16 tackle breaks, 3 try assists, and a try of his own for 117 GDS points. So, look, I think I would be happy, and GDS coaches would be happy with 3/4 of that output. For this weekend, I'm not going to suggest that there is another ton in the near future for Teddy, but if we can get a 60 to 80 point return on James Tedesco, I think I'd be pretty happy with that. He obviously had a little bit of an opportunity to do some hosting on one of the Saturday ticket, I think it was, and that was his first time ever on a panel show. He said, and it was interesting to see him there, but he obviously much prefers to get on the field. And I think we've got to back the face of GDS to have a big back end of the season, as the Roosters are obviously trying to make that top 4 or solidify their spot in that top 4.
Well, second time on stage. Don't forget when you, me, and Longy sat up there and asked him a few questions about both the rugby league and the NFL. Look, someone else who can break plenty of tackles, Keanu Kinney, a massive pod play. He sort of teased coaches. I think whenever I try to play him, he sort of disappoints with a 30 or a 40. He scored 13 tackle breaks back in round 16 against the Panthers. No try for 56 points. He is more than capable on his day, a massive 90 against the Eels back in round 6. He's certainly someone that I'd love to play, particularly over even some blokes like Teddy, like Ponga, like Edwards. Just hasn't been showing enough consistency. Tell me what you like about Keanu Kinney. Is it the matchup this week?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I talked about him last week being this big pod and having a really good run home. I think he's got one of the best run home for any fullback in terms of the matchups. The Dragons one's really interesting. We sort of back the Dragons to allow plenty of points to fullbacks all season, 54 at the moment, which actually, when you look at it, is the easiest matchup for fullbacks across the season. But filter that to the past 3 weeks, they've allowed an average of 30 GDS points to fullbacks, the Dragons. So there is this opportunity where they're digging in deep and stopping those fullbacks from breaking tackles, from getting through the line, from scoring tries. And that's kind of what we want Keanu Kinney to be doing. So I'm sort of in two minds. I really like him as a big pod play, but I could see him having another lower score that sort of we wouldn't expect. But I think for me, the other young gun that I really like, I said before, is Iongi, and I think he potentially will be the one that I put plenty of salary on, along with Reece Walsh in my under 24 side. When you look at it at face value, the Panthers Thursday night, it doesn't look like a great matchup for the Eels and Iongi, but the Panthers are allowing an average of 65 GDS points to fullbacks over the past 3 games. So it wasn't just Walsh's brilliance last week, but it's been consistent over the last few weeks. So for me, Iongi's a lock at the under 24 comp, and I'm just going to put heaps of salary on him.
66 points for Jai Gray there without a try against Penrith Panthers back in round 18. So yeah, absolutely. If anyone is going to do well for the Eels, we're probably expecting that to be Isaiah Iongi. All right, mate, let's get into the consensus starting sides for round 21 on screen. We've got the Stats Lab primetime consensus team, 3 matches across the Thursday and Friday. Stefano Utoikamanu, Jackie Williams, Isaiah Yeo in the middle forwards, Harry Grant at hooker, Dill Lucas, Keon Kalol-Matangi on the edges, Cleary and Dill Brown in the halves with Casey McLean and Rob Toya centres, and a pretty handy back 3, Sua Fa'alongo, Tommy Jenkins, Dill Edwards. We say it most weeks, you could almost get away with your full round side through those first 3 matches. Some definite studs amongst those, amongst that starting team. Come up with your own bench, please. Here is the full round consensus starting 13. Boy, this looks pretty red hot. Toby Couchman, Payne Haas, Terrell May, the 3 middles, Harry Grant at hooker, Dill Lucas, Haumole Olakwatu on the edges, Nico Hines just ahead of Jaden Campbell and Nathan Clear in the halves. Matty Timoko, we've got a Raider making an appearance on the big board. Adam Dewey alongside him in the centres. Tommy Jenkins, Sua Fa'alongo, and we think Reece Walsh will be the top scoring fullback there. BroDown ShowDown, 2-1 to you once again, Dill, and you're starting to sneak away, I think. Got a nice 2 or 3 point buffer, sort of reverse of what we saw this time 12 months ago. So I've got a bit of work to do, but you're ticking along pretty nicely there. Harry Grant, Payne Haas outscoring Blake Brayley, Alex Twal, Keanu Kinney didn't come off, but still the win for you. Well done. We spun the wheel off screen. Everyone that voted for Dill last week went in the running for a pack, and it was Reece. Reece nice, MB31, well thanks for getting your vote in there for Dill. Dill's going to open up a pack, and those cards can be yours, mate. Get in touch through the Discord or through our Instagram page, and we get those cards to you nice and quickly.
Unreal. So hopefully on screen, Reece, you're going to get a rare pack. All 9 cards are coming your way. Stu, can you see that pack there?
Yes.
Perfect. Alrighty, let's rip in. Let's get into it. Hopefully we've got something good. We've got a good animation.
Oh, I think it's good.
So there's going to be something good in here. Let's start at the top and work our way across. Campbell Graham, gold. CHT, gold. We've got a gold and Cure. We'll come back to that diamond there in a moment. Adam Elliott, plat. The Roddy, gold. Caleb Clark, gold. He scored 60 last week, so he's in some form. The Ponga, gold there as well, and the Nat Butcher, gold, and then the diamond is a Jordan Ricky. So Reece, make sure you hit me up on Discord or Instagram, and we'll get those cards to you as well. Thank you very much for voting for me.
And on screen, you can see BroDown ShowDown for round 21. It is 12-9, a nice 3-point buffer there for Dyl. Gee, things have to go my way over the next few weeks to turn that around pretty quickly. Reece Walsh up against the returning James Tedesco. My Matty Timoko against his Adam Dewey. My Nathan Cleary against Jaden Campbell. If you think I can get back amongst the winner's circle with those three players, comments due in the stream right now. If you're listening on YouTube, Apple or Spotify after the show has gone live, just type your comment into the chat there and we'll make sure that we get you on the wheel for next round. If you think Dyl's plays in Teddy, Dewey and Jaden Campbell can continue his dominance in the BroDown Showdown, comment Dyl now and we'll make sure that you get on the wheel if Dyl prevails. I think 1 or 2 more wins, mate, and you've sewn it up. So the pressure's on. We got Sif Kanga going for you already, Dyl, to continue that hot streak. Rightio, that's it for the round 21 live preview show. Hopefully you've made a couple of changes to your side. If we've been able to steer you in a couple of different directions to where you are heading. Things are heating up, aren't they? The run for the prize cards are well and truly on, but also just getting some handy packs for next season. If you can hold off from opening them, you're gonna be thankful that you did when everything's refreshed for season 2027. If you're in the running for a prize card, good luck. Good luck, everyone else going for a podium or a top 20 finish this round. Everyone's still in the cup as well. Congratulations. Good luck for that. Thanks for joining us once again. Make sure you give the show a like, a subscribe, jump over to our Instagram, our YouTube, if you can. Plenty of rugby league and even more importantly, NFL gridiron stuff coming up over the next month. I am super excited. The two best sports have a little bit of an overlap. Good luck for round 21, everyone. We'll catch you probably 6 p.m. next week as well, depending on what the AFL boys are doing. We'll give you plenty of notice on the GDS Discord server if we're going to attempt a bit of a later date. But all the best for round 21. Good luck, and we'll catch you the same time next week.
See you guys. Thanks, mate. Have a good one.